Hi everyone, good to see you here.
I
This is Steven.
think you need to rename yourself. You're my name, but welcome.
Yeah,
All right. Again, welcome everyone. We're also joined by some of our Ghana ASCD team. We have Ernestina here on the call and Agnes. Thank you all for being here. All right, so the purpose of our webinar series is to delve into topics, again, that support leading and teaching in future-ready learner-centered communities. And we hope that by participating in this series, that you will strengthen your capacity to be a leader and teacher in learner-centered communities, that you'll learn strategies that you can easily apply in your context. And of course, our goal is to always expand our network. And so we hope that you connect with people in the chat today and continue to grow your professional network through all of our offerings and beyond. Welcome, Monica. So just to let you know a little bit about what we do at Ghana ASCD, we are really committed to supporting educators in strengthening their capacity via collaborating. And so these are opportunities that we host for you all to connect. And that happens through our webinars. We have Saturday PD series here in Ghana. We offer consulting. We have a monthly EdExpress newsletter. We recently launched a journal, and our second issue will be coming out the beginning of next month. We have a literacy program where we go into schools and do literacy development with young folks and hope to model some practices for teachers. And if many of you know us for our International Educators Summit, and we just hosted our second one this past July. Even though it's a short time together, I always like us to start with an orientation about how we show up in this space, and so that we get the most out of this time in ways that feel respectful and that honor everyone and ourselves. So our ask is that while you are engaged in this webinar with us, that you stay engaged and collaborative, be an active listener as best you can. I know we're at home and we got kids. Mine was just coughing in the background and things going on, but as best you can, and be respectful. So that means please stay muted. You're welcome to have your camera on if you feel like you want to show your face, but please stay muted while our presenters are speaking. And this is a safe space. We want you to be curious. We want you to ask questions. So as questions come up for you, please put them in the chat and we will get to them at the end of the presentations. So now I'd like you to meet our presenters. Very excited about this. We have two wonderful experts on STEM and STEAM education here with us this evening. And first, I'd like to introduce Mr. Stephen Loya. He is an educational strategist passionate about redefining learning experiences for young people. As the lead at the STEAM Innovative Foundation and Entrepreneurship Coordinator at Wellspring College, Stephen drives the design and implementation of innovative programs in skills-based education, STEM, entrepreneurship, and vocational training. His work centers on equipping students for real-world success and inspiring educators to create meaningful, future-ready learning environments. Welcome, Stephen. And next, we have Mr. Aaron Kweku Chum Akwaboa. He is a consultant, school leader, and public speaker who currently serves as a key advisor for Transforming Teaching, Education, and Learning, TETO. I'm used to just saying TETO, and is the immediate past director of strategy and innovation at the Ministry of Education, Ghana. Originating from Akwasi in the Eastern region, Aaron holds a Master's of Education with honors that focuses on curriculum and instruction from Chapman University in Orange, California, and a BA in Geography and Political Science from the University of California, Santa Barbara. Welcome, Aaron. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen. Just so you know, the format is each presenter will speak for about 10 to 12 minutes or so, and then we'll have a round of Q&A. So post your questions in the chat, and we'll make sure to get those answered for you. Welcome again, everyone. Stephen, are you ready? Did we lose you? Oh, here he comes with my name. maybe Aaron, can you start us off so he doesn't feel rushed, or do you need a moment
Yeah,
too?
no problem, everybody.
All
First
right,
of
thank
all,
you.
that was a really nice introduction. The only thing I will say is that my name wasn't spelled right. It's Akwaboh, and I gotta say that for my granddaddy because if I don't get the name right, he'll roll around in his grave. But besides that, great introduction. Thank you guys so much for that. Um, I see my homegirl Monica here from Detroit. I said go Lions, but she's a Bears fan, but we repping anyway. So with all that being said and done, I just kind of want to talk to you about some of the things that we did in the last few years at the Ministry of Education, as far as STEM went and some of the like the vision and mission that went along with that, and then also kind of just have the conversation of where we're going in the Ghanaian space. And so I'm gonna see if I can go ahead and share real quickly. I know that I have that permission, but I got to see where my video is, and let me see if I can do that now. 1 second. All right. All right. So I hope everybody's with me right now, and you see where we're going. So realistically, I think this crowd probably knows and understands. Excuse me. Let me make the view a little better. Kind of already understands what STEM is or STEAM is and what folks are trying to do. But the overall mission is to reposition the entire education system to produce a critical mass of assertive and empowered young Ghanaian students equipped with the essential skills for social economic transformation, right? We've been too long where we've been the ones who've been doing all the work. And we've been the ones who do all the labor and everything else, but we haven't done the quote unquote brain work. And in fact, what tends to happen is that when there is brain work to do, there's a brain drain. Ghanaians are removed from Ghana, Nigerians are removed from Nigeria and sent all across the Western world to make their lives better. The reason why I sound like this is because, for good or for bad, my oldest uncle got a scholarship to go to the United States in 1970, and that's where I grew up. I grew up in the United States. And so to imagine losing a professor and two generations of individuals who all have master's degrees who are all doing the US, right? And so we are really trying to focus in on putting students in a position here where we're learning at the highest levels and that we're engaging in a way that it isn't just about chew, pour, pass, and forget. And so what we looked at is this. We have the first industrial revolution all the way back where we're talking about steam power and everything else. And then you move into mass production, everything. At every stage, Ghana, West Africa, Africa in general was always behind in that point. But we're at a point right now in the fourth industrial revolution where we don't have to be behind, where things are a lot easier to receive. It doesn't cost as much as it used to cost as far as like the front cost of things to really educate our young men and women in the way they need to be educated. And so that is the focus here. So just kind of thinking about what we're doing for 21st century education. Now, I think, again, I think you all understand what STEAM is, but just to kind of talk through it, right? We have science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. And I really want us to focus on this arts piece. I was speaking to my co-presenter earlier in the week, and we were having a discussion about why certain countries in Africa or even in the quote unquote second and third world are doing so well in certain spaces, especially in entertainment. And it's because they're focusing on art and they're using the scientific nature of art to really create a strong business. Right now, when I go on my Netflix, I have Nollywood. I have a bunch of Nigerian movies on there because the Nigerian filmmakers have been able to use art to connect with the engineering, to connect with the mathematics, connect with the technology and the science, right? Another thing I'll talk about is this. There's a reason why a lot of Ghanaian children don't have big, giant dreams because they don't have movies where they go to space, right? But if you don't have the artistic capabilities and you don't have the scientific capabilities, you don't have the STEAM, how do you make a film where a bunch of Ghanaian kids go to space so that they can believe that they can be so wonderful and so great? And that's something that we have to really think about here. This isn't just about, I just want to make socioeconomics and make money and be with the Joneses in this. This is about art. This is about literature. This is about changing who we are. This is about getting all of the things that we want as Ghanaian culture and West African culture to be in the right context. Because listen, every time I do GPS in Ghana, there is someone who is saying the Ghanaian words incorrectly. There is no GPS on, on Google Maps or on Apple Maps that sounds like me. That's ridiculous. And so I think that as we work on this whole process, where we do the STEAM and we really put in the art, we can go to that next level. Now here, I think there's something that a lot of people, especially a lot of folks who have not been brought into the STEAM revolution and don't have the background for it, are like, well, that just means you're just doing science. You're just working with smart kids. And there's no such thing as a smart kid. It's about engaged young men and women. It's about young men and women who are doing something called integration. So if you look here, we have a situation where how we used to teach the solar system. We used to teach the solar system on this side here, where's the solar system, and then you do something in English, you do something in math, you do something in social studies, and it's tangentially related, but there's no true connection. Now look over here to the, oh, sorry, let me go back. I apologize. Look over here to the left here, right? The solar system is right in here, but then you have this Venn diagram of technology, of science, of engineering, of mathematics, right? Of these things work. So what can telescopes show us about the moon and Jupiter? Now, let's think about this for a second. You see that even the term us, that pronoun us, is better than you, because something that we always do in the Ghanaian system is that we rank people consistently. We say you are better than this person, that person. In STEAM education, the goal is to do it together. We're going to be a small group of young men and women working on this together. As we work together, we're going to get an actual goal. We're going to fix something, and it means something. Let's be honest. If you went to school in West Africa, like I did, I went to Presbyterian Boys Secondary School in 1997, and I love going to preset, but I also realized that I don't remember anything from there. And I was ranked 1, 2, or 3 in all of my classes. And to be one of the best students in the class and not remember that year academically is a problem. The reason why I don't remember that year academically is that I never had to solve anything. I never had to integrate anything. And so when we look at STEAM, the first piece is integration, all right? The next piece here that we want to think about is specialization. Look at my little babies over here, right? So we do it all the time. We do a career day and they dress up and everything. Now, the thing about it is we dress them up at preschool, first grade, second grade, third grade, but we don't educate them towards specialization. Something that's happening in the Ghanaian system now is that young men and women are able to pick and say, you know what, when I get to secondary school, I am going to focus on engineering. I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to focus on that. That gives them a situation where they're always thinking about the future, right? There's this larger goal there. It's not just this diploma on the right-hand side. Everybody getting a WASSCE, what does it do? If you get a WASSCE in something that you don't love, how then do you have a job that you can work well at, right? I call it the frustration syndrome. If you're in Ghana right now, you know there's so many young men and women who are frustrated about the work that they're doing. They're intelligent human beings who would love to be engineers, but they're working at the bank. But it's because we didn't steer them in the right direction. So the new curriculum has a whole nother focus on specialization and pushing our young men and women towards realizing that they want to do something. Like with my big mouth right here, I thought I was going to be a lawyer when I was a kid. And I was very lucky to go to a school that had a law and public service program. So I got a chance to specialize and focus there while still getting all the other skills that we needed. So step 1 in STEAM is having integration. Step 2 is slowly building towards specialization so young men and women have something to gear themselves towards. And so these are some of the career pathways in which that are new to the Ghanaian system. So we have engineering, aviation, and space science, biomedical science, manufacturing, and the rest. So all these things are because we used to just do science. Now you go and you just do random science. There's no love. There's no keen interest in that, right? And that's one of the things that we want to transform here in STEAM. We want to have people have interest to really solve a problem, right? Because right now, you ask the average Ghanaian young person from age 13 to 20, and you say, what do you want to do? They'll tell you want to make money. Well, that's why we're doing things that may not necessarily be the best for us, because we're making money doing things that are a little kind of sideways instead of focusing in on having a direct pathway to move forward. So these are some of the new ones that we push forward. One of my favorite ones here is the robotics. I just think that is going to really transform what we're doing all over the world, especially that in a computer science. So that is something I wanted us to really look at and know that it's not just a pipe dream, but the government, the previous government NPP and the current government NDC are still pushing these things, and that is what is in the curriculum right now for secondary schools. Our next piece here is delivery. I always have to find a way to get myself involved in some capacity. So don't laugh at me. I'm not trying to take all the credit. But I was lucky enough to work with one of the first all-girls STEM school in West Africa, Bussum Tree Girls School. And these are the young ladies working on robotics here. And the thing that I want us to do is look at the dichotomy between this right section here, where this lady is just a sage on the stage. Everybody doesn't know is where we're going to go. Now imagine the brain power of one human being versus the brain power of all these young, beautiful young ladies in this room here, right? And to be dissecting, to be playing, to be discussing, to rip it apart and try it again. All of us as adults in our working relationships know that it just isn't someone just talking at us all the time. We have to get in there and work. And so I think that the next piece here after specialization is delivery, changing the delivery from the sage on the stage, I know everything, that kind of piece, into we're all going to work together. And, you know, there are pieces here where in that particular day, I remember learning things from young ladies and also teaching them something. And it just created a much stronger connection. If I was their teacher every day, we would be working at a level that I could never work at if I was behaving or in the same situation as the lady here on the left, I mean on the right. So realistically too, let's talk about what the data says across the world, right? So when you look at this whole thing is that lecture is 5%. So even this right now is a lecture. I'm just telling you this. You might walk away with 5% of this. Like, what's the point of that? Why would we spend an hour together and then you go away with 8 minutes of something? That does nothing for us as a country, as a society, right? So what we are looking at is lectures 5%, reading is 10%, audio visual. I think that we're moving slowly there as in Ghana, as that we're showing kids things, but that's still watching. And I always say, you know what? Many of us have fallen asleep to our favorite TV show. So no matter how much you're into it, you'll still fall asleep to it. It'll still make you sleepy, right? Therefore, what about discussion? What about hashing it out? What about going back and forth and telling your partner, it didn't work because of this, or I think it'll work because of that? And then what about the doing? What about taking the thing apart and fidgeting with it and going into the community and finding out and doing research and say, why are you always putting trash in the gutters? Why are you behaving this way? And instead of just doing theoretically, right? And so this is about problem solving and changing the way we see things. And then, so that's really where it is at. And so also the last piece is assessment. Right here, it says, I built my own car at age 14. I think many of us have seen this young man before, and it's a young man who built a car. Now, people will tell me that the people on the right may be more intelligent because they completed a test and they were able to do something on a piece of paper, which is fine. And it shows a level of intelligence that has been kind of structured into our societies across the world for years. But let's really think about this. What about this young man who's solving this problem? So we actually have to talk about assessment as the real goal of STEAM. After we do all of this, If we assess on a paper, we've done nothing because you worked with your partner, you put this together, you did all these wonderful things, but the thing that matters, the thing that we're going to go ahead and and measure is on paper. No, we have to have more than half, maybe up to 70% of what we're assessing about what students create, what they fix, what they solve. And so that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about as far as what is STEAM and in Ghana and like what we're looking towards for us to do and what is already going on. So I see there's some things in the chat. I'll be quiet for now, take those questions and that back and forth, and then Stephen will come in. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Aaron. All right, so you dropped some
Thank you.
gems.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna get to those in the Q&A in just a bit. Right now, I'm gonna turn it over to Stephen. Welcome. I hope we are situated. Okay, you renamed
All right.
yourself as
Can
Stephen.
you
Welcome.
Hi, Dr. Lorraine. Hi, everyone. That was a very inspiring session. I was blown and I had a lot to learn. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think our conversation during the week was quite insightful as well. And yeah, it was very instrumental in shaping this conversation today. Yeah, so hi everyone. I hope you can see my Ghana what do you call this? My goddess from Ghana the last time I was there. Yeah, so representing very well. Okay. So since I got this, I've been thinking about how to wear this, put it on. So I just kept it in my room until today, and I brought it out to say, guys, I'm representing Ghana this evening. All right, so it's good to be here, Miss. And I'm going to be sharing. Hi, Dr. Jill. I see you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I'm going to be sharing my slide in a moment, and I'm just going to be having the conversation at a very basic level. So what I want to do today is to simplify what STEAM is all about and share one or two strategies we can implement STEAM in our classroom or in our schools. So I'm going to share my screen, and as I share my screen, I'm going to turn off my camera because of low bandwidth, so that I don't get kicked out of the meeting at some point. So permit me to turn off my video so I can share my screen and have an effective session. Thank you. All right. So just let me know when you can see my screen. And in 3, 2, 1, you should see it now. Okay.
Not yet. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, can you see my screen? Okay, I believe you can see my screen. Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So what are you seeing on my screen right now? The slide, right?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, so to this evening, I wanted to speak to this topic at a very basic level, and I needed to pay attention. I needed to write down your questions. I needed to engage. I needed to leave comments in the chat room so that we can have a good time. Okay. So the topic before us is the STEAM advantage, empowering future ready learners for a changing world. And my name is Stephen Doya. Yeah. So most times when we think about STEAM, we think about the big word. We think about complex technology. We think about the whole tech setup, and sometimes it's before we even start to implement STEAM in our classroom, we get worn out because we think about it from a very high point, not from the very basic element. And that's what I want to discuss today, how we can think about STEAM at the very basic element. And the what our students are growing into isn't waiting for them to catch up. It's already moving. And the world that is being defined by technology, creativity, and complexity, the question is no longer what should our children know, it should be about what should they be able to do with what they know. Most time when we think about learning, we're always thinking about what should they learn now? What should they learn now? What's the new thing they should learn? But we've never paused to ask the question, what should they be able to do with what they already know? And that is where the STEAM advantage comes in, not as another subject, not as a shiny project, but as a mindset for designing learning that meets the future. So for me, it's about the mindset. It's beyond the subject. It's beyond what we teach. It's how we teach for relevance. It's how we prepare students for the future. It's how we prepare today's students to be able to compete at a global level. It's how a child in Accra, Ghana, a child in Nigeria, a child in Zimbabwe, a child in Benin Republic can synthesize learning and apply them in a way that help us to stand out. And STEM is beyond acronym. Before now, we are very, very familiar with STEM. And now we now have STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. But if we stop here at the acronym level, we miss the power of STEAM in itself. STEAM is not about subject, it's about the synthesis. It's about how we teach students to see connections, solve problems, and shape meaning. And at its core, STEAM is about thinking and creating like innovators. It's about empowering our students to think like creators. So one of the things I did during this summer break was I was reflecting about education, and I asked myself, what kind of thinking do we have to imbibe in today's students so that they can compete at the global level? What kind of thinking would today's students possess in a way that they can stand shoulder to shoulder with their peers? So it is beyond the subject. It's about the thinking. It's about helping our students to imagine and create something new. So STEAM is not what we teach. It is how we teach for relevance. So I'm going to be sharing 2 strategies today. And the first strategy is about embedding STEAM thinking in everyday learning. How can you embed it? Either you are teaching at primary school level, at secondary school level, you are teaching at the early years. How can we embed STEAM thinking in everyday learning? Like I said earlier, it's beyond the subject. It's about how today's students think. It's about the ideology. It's about how they synthesize information. It's about what they can do with what they've already learned. So one of the biggest misconceptions about STEAM is that it requires expensive equipment or complex programs. But the real power of STEAM is in the mindset, the small shift that make learning active, inquiry-driven, and connected to life. So imagine a history teacher that can integrate STEAM by asking students to redesign, let's say an artifact using modern materials. Okay, imagine a mathematics teacher that can bring relevance into the classroom by connecting ratios to sound engineering or photography composition. And I think most times the reason why students are always scared of mathematics is because mathematics has been presented as a very, very complex subject that has no application with real life. What if, as a teacher, you help your students to see how mathematics can be applied into everyday activity? That is STEAM thinking. That helps them to make sense of mathematics. Because as a student, when I was in secondary school, I was always wondering, who is Pythagoras? I mean, why is it stressing my life? Why am I solving his own problems? Why am I finding X every now and then? So it never made sense to me why I'm stressing my life every single time. But as I grew up and now hungry for knowledge, I began to research about why is mathematics relevant. So it is the job of the teacher to simplify STEAM at the basic level to help students to make sense of everyday subjects. So when we teach students to observe, to question, to prototype, and reflect, what we are doing is STEM. Whether we're using robotic kits or recycled cardboard. So either you're using cardboard, either you're using nylon, that's recycled materials, either you're using what do you call it, faulty radios and the likes to create stuff. What we are doing is STEM. So I was thinking about how come that when I was in primary school, none of my teacher was able to understand that I enjoyed playing with electronics. But there wasn't any way in our curriculum that allowed me to express that part of me. Okay, I remember that as a child in primary school, whenever we have sports radios at home or sports flashlight, I begin to open them and I get batteries, I fix them together, and they get to work. But there wasn't any part of our curriculum that allowed me to create projects where I can do that. The only time I had the opportunity of creating a project like that was a friend of mine in a private school somewhere, in another private school, came back one time and said they gave them an assignment to build a story building and submit it for their science project. That was like an exciting moment for me. I was so excited about it. It wasn't an assignment. I can remember I started working on that from about 4 p.m. and I finished about 11 p.m. with my friend. He stayed just close to my house. We used paper, thick cardboards. I had all the materials at home. Surprisingly, I had every single material at home because I usually keep all those abandoned stuff in one place just for me to play with. So I built the house, a duplex, I remember very, very vividly. I built a duplex with card materials. I put wiring around the house, and when you press a switch in the house, the light comes on, and it was beautiful. So that was physics at play. That was mathematics at play. That was in play rather. But there wasn't any part of my curriculum that helped me to exercise that. So imagine what we can do if we help our students to synthesize learning and bring learning to life through this by observation, by questioning, by prototyping, and by reflection. And I used to say that one of the core missing components of Africa's education system is Africa's education system doesn't have a component that allows our students to reflect. Our education system is that allows us to cram and pour out what we've already crammed. But our curriculum doesn't allow us to reflect, to think critically, to solve problems. But when we can create that system that allows our students to observe, to question, to prototype, and to reflect, we are practicing STEM. Okay, and and that in itself is the basic form of STEM. And if you can achieve that without big tech, we are actually solving problems. So STEM thinking happens wherever curiosity meets creativity. I'm going to go to the next strategy. And this strategy is called the power of the A. That is the power of the A in STEM. Like we all know that it was formerly STEM, right? So the power of the A. The A in STEM, the A in STEM or STEM changes everything. It reminds us that innovation without empathy is empty. When we innovate, we should be able to empathize. We should be able to understand what people feel. A child in Ghana should be able to create solutions for the immediate environment. Should be able to understand how to be able to do design thinking. So the A brings storytelling, design, and emotion into problem solving. It is what makes the product not just functional, but meaningful. Think of a young person building a water filtration system, not just as a science project, but as a human solution to a community problem. That's the difference between invention and impact. When you give, I was taking an entrepreneurship class last week, yeah, and I gave an assignment. I told the student to form teams and create a solution for the disabled. Okay, now that kind of assignment, what it does for them is it helps them to empathize. It helps them to design for a specific demography, and that in itself is STEAM. That is a STEAM. That is STEAM in action in an entrepreneurship class. So the future will belong to. Sorry, the A is not just about art. It's about authenticity. It's about the aesthetic. It's about awareness, and it helps our students to see why their knowledge matters. See, the future will belong not just to coders and scientists, but to creators who can connect innovation with humanity. So now I've shared two powerful strategies with you. I've shared the first one, which is small shifts with big outcomes. How you can embed STEM thinking into everyday learning. And the second one is the power of A, humanizing innovation. I'm going to share a quick case study with you. So I have this STEM lab where I lead, that's STEM Innovation Foundation. And what we've done is to democratize access uh, to technology for learners, for people in the community. So we built this tech innovation space called the STEM Innovation Foundation, and we've opened it up for members of the community to visit, to understand how 3D design works, to see 3D printing in action, to use VR gears, to get lost in virtual reality, to see how they can interact with what is learned in class. And this is ongoing. We started this just this year, and I can say just as I speak right now, we are establishing another facility in a community school through the help of the alumni community. So if we can come together like this, we can have more of this maker spaces where we are providing access to this level of technology. So now the 3C model of future ready learning, I'm going to run very quick because of my time. So I'm going to share a quick framework with you, the 3C model of future ready learning. We use this simple framework that guides our program. And this one, you can apply it in any classroom. The first one is curiosity. And this is about sparking wonder. It's about starting with questions, not answers. So in your class, don't just provide answers to the students. Ask them questions. When they are faced with a certain problem, frame questions that help them to think about the problem in a different way. And for creativity, let students design, let them test, let them fail, and let them rebuild. And I think that as a school or our Africa education structure, we design it the way that students get to see failure as a big thing, as shame, as disappointment. And we've painted failure in a way that if you don't do a particular solution and you fail, then that's the end of life. Failure is part of the learning process. So allow your students fail when coming up with ideas, when building, when innovating, allow them fail. That's the way they can learn. And the next one is contribution. So when we are creating solutions or when we are building for students, we connect learning to community relevance. So let's say we taught them 3D design today. We are asking them the question, how can you implement this in your community? How can you solve problem with this thinking? How can you design the solution for your immediate community? That's how to create future ready learning. So what future are we preparing for students? For today's students? If the world is changing faster than our curriculum, then relevance is our responsibility. Future ready learners are not just those who know everything, but those who can learn, unlearn, and reimagine continuously. As teachers, as school leaders, as policymakers, our greatest task is to teach students how to think across boundaries, how to collaborate, and how to bring art into their work. That is the power of A in STEM, how to bring the art into the work they do. Our classrooms must become studios of possibilities, where knowledge meets imagination and purpose. And I'm going to end with this. So I'm going to be inviting every one of you listening to me today. I'm going to be inviting every one of you, school leaders, teachers, policymakers, educational leaders. I'll be inviting you to not wait for a big reform or a new policy to begin. I need you to start where you are, with what you have, and with who you teach. That's one student in your class. Start with them. Start from where they are. Because STEAM is not just a project, it is a philosophy. A philosophy that says learning is not about preparation for life, it is life itself. Because when we think about learning, we think about we are preparing them for life. No, learning is life itself. And as we empower learners across Africa, let us remember this. The future isn't built by tools, it's built by teachers who dare to imagine learning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. All right, you all. We're moving into our question and answer session. I'm just going to share a couple of key takeaways that I heard from all of the genius that was shared by Aaron and Stephen. First, what struck me about some of what you presented, Aaron, was around the importance of shifting our practice and really moving away from being that sage on the stage, right? And talking about the importance of assessment and making sure that our assessments are authentic. So I'm going to ask you a question about that in just a moment. Stephen, I really liked the push of doing STEAM kind of wherever you are, that it can be integrated across content and subject area, particularly like the idea of digital storytelling, because I think that's something that every teacher across content area can access with a degree of ease, because I think our young learners are pretty equipped at using digital storytelling. So it's really just serving as a facilitator of that process. And the humanizing the A in STEAM particularly resonates with me. I think about AI and how it might impact the way we do teaching and learning. It's important, and we are still humans. And it's important that what did you say? Innovation without empathy is empty, that we have to think about humans and how it impacts them. So that was really powerful. Both of you all really talked about the importance of STEAM being inquiry-based, right? And right before you said it, Stephen, in the comments, we were talking about the importance of kind of challenging the knowledge base that we currently have and approaching it with a level of curiosity. So I'm going to start there with a question for you all, and then I'm going to come back to the assessment question. How do we cultivate a culture of curiosity in our classrooms, or as leaders that are leading other teachers? What are some things we can do to encourage our learning community to ask questions? And I know that you said, Stephen, to lead with questions, but when we're kind of trained or oriented to just accept what is given to us, what are some ways we can kind of push our learners to think about what's possible?
All right. Thanks for that question. Okay. All right. Thanks for the question. First, let me say that as Africans, we've been trained not to ask questions. We've been trained not to challenge status quo. We've been trained not to challenge elders. Okay. So we see those that are older than us. We see our teachers as people we should fear. People should not challenge what they are thinking. And we've grown through that subconsciousness that as adults, even when young people ask questions, we challenge what we know, we feel threatened by that. We feel like, why are you questioning me? I mean, just go just do what I ask you to do. So first and foremost, we must first as teachers re-engineer our minds to understand that questioning is not a bad thing entirely. It's not a bad thing. Because people cannot learn, people cannot get better if they don't ask questions. We must first have a mindset of re-engineering to challenge what we've already accepted and we've already grown with. We have to understand, to know that culturally we are not designed, we're not designed to accept people questioning our authority. That's why if you see a young person, I remember that in the house where I grew up, if my dad says something or my mom says something, you don't ask why. You do it. Okay, even if they are, you can possibly ask why am I doing this? Or and I've seen teachers as well where their students say, I think this might be wrong. And the teacher will go out there, do you know how many years experience I have? I am the Alpha and Omega and the likes, right? So as teachers, we must first take that out of our mindset that while our culture doesn't allow that, or while we've been culturated that way, we must break down ourselves to change that thinking, and also create an environment where our students are not afraid to ask questions. I can say for sure that the classes I get to lead, my students ask me all sort of funny questions, all sort of funny questions. Trust me. Okay, I was in a class 2 weeks ago, and I asked them to pitch a business idea. And a particular student had a business idea in mind that might seem off what it's actually thinking. But everyone said, don't say it. But he was confident enough to air his opinion, knowing that he was in a safe space. So we must create that, we must intentionally create that system. And it starts from the conversation we have with our students. Okay, ask them questions. And when they ask you questions as well, be open to answer. And don't also see yourself as the final authority as teachers. You're not the final authority. You see yourself as someone who is also learning. Because what you know today might be obsolete as well. So be open to learn. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to piggyback on that because the other thing I think is really important for us to keep in mind as educators is that young people have so much more access to information than we may have had when we were coming up.
Yeah.
So it's very possible that they
Exactly.
do know more about certain things than us, probably a lot more about a lot of things than us. So I think when we create communities in our classrooms or our studios of possibilities, I love that, that we think of it as reciprocal, right? So like I'm teaching you what I know and I want to learn from you what you know. I think that's how we really create spaces of innovation, and that we stay in these humanizing spaces where we honor all of the knowledge that everyone brings into the space. Thank you so much for that, Stephen. Aaron, did you want to chime in? I saw you getting hype over there.
Yeah, I'm getting very hyped, and because I work so as my other real job, my family owns a private school, so I see 450 kids every blessed day, from diapers all the way to JSS 3. And the one thing that I've been telling my teachers is that you have to understand respect versus reverence. You should not be revered. You're not that special. All due respect. You should never. We have to remove that from our situation, right? There is respect, and there's decency, and there's kindness, and how to approach, right? But no one outside of our God-given leaders, right, in the Ghanaian society, the only person, like I worked in the government, and I did not kowtow to the president or anyone else. The only people that I would kowtow to is our God-given traditional leaders. No one else deserves reverence. Everyone else just deserves respect. And you get respect because I'm going to say, sir, madam, I've noticed that what you said doesn't work with the current research. That's what we have to do. We have to clearly make sure people are in a position where they understand the difference between reverence and respect, and decency and kindness. That's number one. Number two, it is about being a kinder human being. I think that we have a major issue with authority versus power in Ghana, right? And in West Africa in general. Because you can beat me up, you are going to hurt me. Because you can do something physically to me, or because you have more money than me, you're going to immediately suppress me. That is nothing but colonialism. That is nothing but us learning what the Germans, the British, the French, and everybody else brought to us. So we really need to think about reverence versus respect. And we also need to think about removing the neo-colonialism. You're not a better person than me. You may have more education than I do. You may have more experience than I do, but please listen to me. And the last thing that I always tell people is, guess what? It gets a lot easier when you have all these brains in the room. I just remember when I first started teaching and I thought I knew everything. The kids were quiet. It just would become hot and sweaty by third period, which is like 10:30 in the morning. I'm hot. I'm sweating out of my clothes already. I feel terrible, right? Because I'm doing all this work. But when the kids are working with me, because we're all learning and going back and forth, there is less frustration. So I do think there's something to be done there. And I see in the chat, there's a conversation about leadership. And that's something that, again, even at the very personal level of my school, I had to do. There's certain things that I even told my dad. My dad is a 69-year-old man, born and raised in Epiansa in the Eastern region. That man is about the traditional Ghanaian ways. And I said, Daddy, there's certain things in the school you can't do anymore because you are not talking about respect. You're talking about reverence. They don't need to care about you because you're 69. You don't know what they know. And it's okay. We love you and we care about you, but this is not the time and place for it. So you also have to really shake up leadership. And lastly, learn some humility. We have to stop hiring people who want to be in charge of other human beings, right? That's a bad, nasty thing. If you want to be in charge, I won't hire you. If you want to work with other people, then you can come on the team. But that's, I think, part of the process.
Oh, thank you for that. I think that underscores one of the competencies that we always talk about with future ready learners and around collaboration. Like you have to enter a space being willing to collaborate, which I believe addresses some of those things that you just mentioned around needing to have some humility, mutual respect, and so on. So thank you for underscoring that. We have just a couple minutes left, but Aaron, if you can, in like 1 to 2 minutes, share the importance of authentic assessment and maybe some ideas or examples of authentic assessment that you have seen in some of these STEM schools.
Yeah, wonderful. So really quickly, the core of authentic assessment is to be able to say what the young men and women can actually create and build and do, right? And so something that that I've seen in schools is that, you know what, the school has a huge a trash issue, like a garbage issue. And so they were like, okay, what can we do with this? And so what they started to do was that they would give students points, right? That would like help them like in the dorm and like with grounds work and things of that nature, right? If they would recycle, and then they would take the recycled goods, right? Whether it be food, oil, even plastic and the rest, and they would run it through this little machine that they made, and they would make fuel through it. And so with that fuel that they were making, they were selling it, right? And so it's like this whole thing of we have a issue with trash and people not throwing it away. So we have to create some sort of social, not necessarily financial, but some kind of social benefit and incentive. And then we also have to make it do something for us. And then they got a financial incentive out of it because they sold the fuel. And so those are things that we're talking about. Like, what is our problem? What can we do to solve it? And just like Stephen said, how can we do it in a humane manner? We can get anything done, right? And you look at some very efficient places all over the world, they're also the most nasty, dirt, mean places in the world. You go to certain places, I will not mention names because I don't want to get into political firestorm, but you go to certain countries in the world and everything is nice, clean, and organized because people are being beat to death. That's not humane. That's not organized. That's not neat. And so I think just authentic assessment is, what is your problem? How did you solve it? And how did you also have the conversation of what are the scientific, engineering, the technological things that you did to do it? And can you actually pinpoint and name those things? And at the end of the day, kids like that pass the WASI and all those things anyway, and they change the world. The last thing I want to say, there's a myth about the kids who learn the soft skills that they can't do the hard stuff. That's an absolute myth. Look on all the data. Do not teach to the test. Make people kind, have young people work for authentic assessment, and guess what's going to happen? They're going to pass any regular assessment they want to do. I was always a great test taker. I pass all my tests all the time, but I'm really about building and creating, and those are the people who change the world.
That's right. Thank you. I am just so overjoyed about the genius that was shared by both Aaron and Stephen. Thank you so much for being in community with us. We have just a few minutes left, so I am going to move us to closing reflections. I'm sharing a quick poll. We'd really like to hear your feedback around our series so that we can make sure we're meeting your needs and expectations. And I want to share some of what's coming up for us. So our next webinar will be next month, on November 20th, and it's around creating the conditions for authentic student agency, which I think supports this idea of developing curious learners who feel like they can ask questions and come up with these innovative solutions to the world's problems. So please register for that, and I will share a registration link in our follow-up communication about this webinar. We always want to invite you to join Ghana ASCD so that you are kept abreast of our event, so that you can be a part of our community. We have a really large WhatsApp group and where we're always chatting with each other. You do get discounts to our in-person events, and you're the first to receive our newsletters and journals and so on. And in the last minute or so, I just want to take a moment to give thanks to all of you and all of the conditions that enabled us to be together in this moment in time. It's always an honor to be in the presence of such committed educators. If you want to share an appreciation in the chat, please do so. Again, to Aaron and Stephen, enormous gratitude and thanks for sharing your wisdom with us this evening. If you want to find us, you can find us on our website, ghascd.org, or our socials. We're all under ASCD Ghana, at ASCD Ghana on our socials. And we look forward to staying in community with you all. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you all soon. Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Dr. Larry. Thank you.